Hi, welcome to episode 2 with Ban
and Heidi.
Thanks for taking a seat with us.
This is a safe space for you to join in on our real-life, everyday conversations, where we often find ourselves discussing women in sport, Paralympic sport, and sitting volleyball. Which is what we're going to talk about today. Sitting volleyball.
It is. Episode 1 done. On to episode 2. Feels good.
Feels good. Feels comfier.
Yeah, right? Change of scenery. Here we are. We got our booms. We're on the couch.
Yeah, thank you for those that responded and said, obviously booms is the choice.
I think some said mix it up, hit up the couch. Yeah, thank you, everyone. We've invited you to take a seat with us on the last episode, on this episode, and now we have a comfier seat, and we're going to explain all about sitting down and playing sitting volleyball today.
Let's do it. Okay. First, news. Big news.
What's the news?
You know the news. Okay, so for the first time in Canada, Paralympic athletes will be paid the same and equivalent of their Olympic counterparts. Canadian Paralympians have never been paid for their medals, so this will be the first time, and it will be the same as Olympic medals. So gold medals will be worth $20,000, silver medals $15,000, and bronze medals $10,000. And this is a huge deal. This comes from the Paralympic Foundation and
amazing.
The Paralympic Committee. Yeah.
Huge deal. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, truly.
Everyone that put in all the work, not you.
Like, do you get a medal if we get
I don't get a medal. I don't get money.
Aww.
I'm just along for you guys to all succeed. I need to take a sip though, because we cheers.
True. Rules. We don't follow a lot of rules, but that's a rule we follow.
That's one.
Okay, the second is just the second what? The second what?
The second point on
point
your brain
on the schedule is the fit check. Tell us what you're wearing.
Fit check here. We got some messy hair in the way. Yeah. Moving the mic out of the way. Can you hear me though? I'm wearing a Tokyo 2020 t-shirt that has the sitting volleyball emblem on it. This is the little guy right here. I would say gal, because it's with a nice pinkish purple background. I'm sitting down on the ground, which embodies our sport. It's a little volleyball up here. And yeah, every episode I am going to be wearing something that represents our sport, women in sport, some type of shirt. I think that either makes a statement or brings awareness to something. My closet is filled with clothes that are from either female designers or women in sport, or just badass people, and I want to wear it and show everyone, and we'll put links in the notes, but you cannot get this. Tokyo special.
Exclusive.
ASICS special.
I'm not wearing anything designed by anybody.
I am me.
Yeah, I'm me. Okay, so fun fact, Heidi loves thrifting. I love thrifting. I'm wearing an M&M shirt that I thrifted. And I specifically love the shirt because it's like a little bit of a political statement, because...
Tell me why. I know
I'm
nothing.
a political science student, for those that did not listen to the first episode and trailer. The green M&M has been the arch nemesis of Tucker Carlson, who is what I would classify as a far right media pundit via Fox News for a long time. And he really just had something against the green M&M, and M&Ms were woke, and that was bad, apparently. So I obviously completely disagree.
Yeah, right. Like, cheers to being woke. Like, what?
Yeah. So I follow politics, and I think it's important to be aware of all sides. That is not a side I'm on, but I just like being aware of all the things. I'm into it.
And cheers to the M&M tea.
Cheers to the M&M tea. I love it. I've worn it like 4 times already since we've recorded.
Yeah, it's a fave.
And my hat just says, "Why are you mad?"
Why are you mad, Heidi?
I'm not mad, but that's like why it's funny.
Yeah, it is. It is funny. We're not mad here. We're happy. We're happy to be with you. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, here we are.
Okay.
We're talking about sitting
volleyball.
It is exciting. It is what we like to talk about. It's what we like to do.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
About what? What is sitting volleyball?
Yeah. No, but like about our stories.
What is our story when it comes to sitting volleyball? Of course,
Ben.
I want you to go first.
Ugh, fine.
Heidi.
Okay.
How did you find sitting volleyball? or how did it find you?
Sitting volleyball found me laying in a hospital bed fighting for my life. I was receiving chemotherapy for bone cancer at the Stollery Children's Hospital here in Edmonton. My current teammate, Joanne Wong, also had the same cancer as me as a child, and she was volunteering at the hospital and met my mom first. And then my mom was like, I'm here with my daughter who lost her leg and is a volleyball player. And she like pretty much sprinted to my room and came and met me. And I was not happy about it right away. I mean, I don't remember the meeting at all, but she does. We don't really talk about it. She was like, you weren't very nice. And that's all I really know. On a lot of drugs and just so tired and so sad about not playing volleyball ever again. And had no visuals or mental images or conceptualization of like what sitting volleyball was.
Yeah.
So
your sport was taken away and you're
like,
why will I do this different version?
Yeah, that sounds terrible. And then that was probably January 2012, sorry. And then I finished chemo about 8 months later. And then December 2012, I tried sitting volleyball for the first time with my best friend, Haley Gottschalk, now masked. I prefer Gottschalk. And
right, like I was like, who
yeah,
that?
we played volleyball in
I know.
Shout out high school and in club together, and she came with me to my first sitting volleyball practice. It was at the Seville Center here in Edmonton.
What a friend.
What
a gal. What a friend.
What a friend, right? Like
we all need those
gotta
people.
have her on the pod. Like gotta have her.
Haley, you're the best.
And truly. And yeah, I just remember really loving it. Obviously faster pace, not obviously. We'll talk about that later. Not obviously, but a lot faster pace than indoor, and that's kind of the first thing I picked up, and using my hands a lot more to play. We'll get into all the differences between indoor and sitting, but different types of contacts, just different angles sitting on the ground, like immediately noticing the differences and immediately noticing how hard it was to move, but also it felt like volleyball. Like, so I was hooked like right away. And just such a welcoming environment. Lots of people who had played for a long time and were just like teaching me right away, like giving me advice, and just such a community. And it was definitely about the volleyball and feeling like I was playing my favorite sport again, but it was also about finding a community, and I had no like awareness or knowledge of or interaction with young people with disabilities, with the exception of Joanne, but one person maybe on the cancer ward while I had treatment, but we didn't really have a relationship at all. So in regular life, I had no visual representation of what being disabled and young and active and having high quality of life looked like.
Yeah. And I mean, you said on the last episode that you chose amputation over any type of reconstruction so you could have a more active life. And I think you were being shown that was your eyes were being open to that possibility. How did you feel?
Her just walking in my room and coming to visit me, I'm like, just like seeing her.
Yeah, right. You said she sprinted, which is not that easy for an amputee. But like she was excited to see you, and Joe is so active and so fit. Yeah. So of course she did. But what was it like to have a new community? Was it intimidating, or was it like, oh, this exists?
It was intimidating because I just have such a history of being very self-conscious, like of my body pre-disability, and immediately like sitting volleyball is hard. so hard. Like moving around on the ground, like your hips are sore, just so many different parts of your body are sore, and then adding like conditioning like into that and different things that were like physically difficult, and compounded with I was like 18, 19 at the time, and that was just such a formative time. I had just moved to Edmonton to go to university, and it was such a balance of it being so welcoming for me and increasingly a safe space and people I related to and could ask questions about sockets and liners and disability and prosthetists and like all the things that who else am I gonna ask those questions to? Like there's no guidebook for how to be young and disabled. And but I forgot the question. But yeah,
how was it being introduced to a new community? But you said like it was intimidating at first, but that makes complete sense. But then you were like, oh wow, they're welcoming me. I'm sure the athletes were like, let us help you, let us show you the way, just like it is now. That's amazing.
Okay, Ben, Danny T, tell us, how did you find sitting volleyball, or how did it find you?
Right. I think my initial, which is kind of wild, my initial introduction to sitting volleyball, it definitely found me. And everyone would think it was when I started with the national team here in Canada, but it actually was when I was playing volleyball in Norway. And I was living in a house with all the foreign athletes, so everyone who wasn't from there, and we all coached outside of playing volleyball. And I don't remember how it started or how it came about, but we all went to a clinic on like, what is sitting volleyball? This is how you coach it. This is how you learn, for over a weekend at one of their like sport institutes. And then we continued to coach 1 to 2 times a week. I don't quite remember, sitting volleyball. And they don't have an active team right now within World Paravolley. So it was a bit of a lower level, but that was my introduction. Like, sit down. This is how you coach it. This is how you do it. This is how you play it, which I can't remember like this far ahead if that was exactly how I would do it now. But that was my first introduction. And really, we were doing ball control. We were doing simple kind of passing back and forth, playing little mini games, but not at the same level that we are now. But I remember being like, oh my goodness, this exists. Mm-hmm. I don't think I knew it was a Paralympic sport, but this exists. And this is pretty fun. But then I moved back to Canada. Fast forward a few years, I'm not sure exactly how many, but to late 2014, and Ian Halliday, who was the head coach of the women's team at that time, or maybe sitting in as an interim, I didn't know that at the time, but he reached out and he was like, hey, do you want to come? I think I like first didn't answer his email and I like messaged again or called me and was like, hey, do you want to come out to a training camp that we're having in Calgary? And obviously I had to ask, like, with school, doing my master's and with a couple other things that I was coaching, make sure it would work. But I was like, yeah, like, why not?
Sounds weird. Sounds
yeah,
cool.
Sounds cool. I was like, oh yeah, I did that once. But even on the phone with him, I think I was like, do I know what that is?
Is that the same thing?
Yeah, exactly. So I went to Calgary, went to this training camp as an assistant coach. And as you've said, there was about 7 or 8 athletes. And I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. But I showed up to the gym. It's a national team. And I just remember being like, oh, practice is starting now. And
where's everyone?
And people were there, but like someone missed their flight. I think even I was getting there a little later than I wanted. The net wasn't up. I'm like, it's time to go. But then the practice started. Everyone sat down and I remember being like, all right, like, ball's in play. We're doing like pretty simple drills, pass to set to attack. And then Ian's like, ramps it way up, starts throwing balls around the gym and like making you guys move, defense. Like, go get the ball, like dive, keep it in play. And I'm like, oh, this is hard. Like, this is really hard. But obviously I was only viewing like entering balls. I'm sure at that time too, we were getting down on the ground and putting the balls in play. But then I believe it was the next day in between sessions, Jesse Ward came out to get touches with his coach, who was Ray. And then Ian and I were together on a team. We played 2v2. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, you want, but of course I didn't say no. I'm like, yeah, for sure I'll play. For everyone that doesn't know, I was a right side in indoor. You pretty much block and like attack and hang out, like dig a couple balls, but like,
not a lot of ball control.
Yeah, now sitting down. I was a middle before that. So now sitting down and then like serve receiving to then having to attack and like setting. I was like, on my butt. Oh my goodness. Can I do this? But over time and like as we were playing, Ian was great and he was giving me some like tips and yeah, I could do it. I could move. I wasn't amazing, but like I could play and I was like, oh, I'm hooked. Like I remember it like kind of changing my perspective and I was like, I like this. And then from there, I think there was a little bit of like a break in the program, funding, some different things. I don't remember exactly. But I quickly transitioned to then being the head coach. So it's like, hey, you've gone to like 3 camps. What do you think about coaching at the Toronto Para-Pan Am Games, which was like 6 months away? Yeah. And that was like, oh my goodness, you're going to be the head coach. Remember one of my first training camps, like doing a drill, rotato potato that we like do now, which is like so fun, but it's a lot of movement. It's hard. And it didn't work. And I was like, I can't coach. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my goodness. I was like so overwhelmed. So it was kind of like a really quick, like, boom, this is sitting volleyball and you're going to be a head coach. Here you go. Qualify for Rio. You can do it.
You can do it. It's all on you. It's all on your shoulders.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I thought at that time I could do it or I'd be where I am today, but it has changed my life and it's incredible. Here I am.
Love it.
Talking about it on a podcast.
And now my whole life and my entire personality is sitting volleyball. So
yeah. Yep. And now I love sitting volleyball.
Okay. So what is sitting volleyball? The main segment.
Yeah. What is sitting volleyball? So we often want our sport, sitting volleyball, to stand alone and be its own entity. From indoor volleyball or beach volleyball. Beach is quite different, obviously. But I think the best way for all the listeners and for people that don't know what sitting volleyball is to describe it is compared to indoor. Mm-hmm. So the traditional version. The similarities are that there's 6 people on the court. There can be up to 2 liberos, only 1 on the court at a time. Serve, receive, setting, attacking, like those rules and the way you would play the game are very, very similar. Serving, obviously a little bit different from a lower height, but the same. We have float serves. Mm-hmm. We have spin serves. Biggest difference, no jumping. Surprise, surprise. But it is called sitting volleyball. There is no jumping. Major rule differences. If I forget any, let me know. But rule difference and kind of like size of court and all of that is where things are very different. So a sitting volleyball court is 6 meters wide by 5 meters long on each side of the court. So that's 10 meters long by 6 meters wide if you're making a full rectangle. And that's because you are sitting down on the ground. So to be able to move in those spaces makes the most amount of sense. And in volleyball, there are 3 people across in a back row and a front row. The net height in women's sitting volleyball is 1 meter, 5 centimeters. And in the men's game is 1 meter, 15 centimeters. So it is much lower. It is on the ground. And then we are able to attack, to serve, to do all of the skills over that net. Some rule differences are, you want to take that over?
We're there already. Great. Rule differences. Okay. So the biggest rule difference would be blocking the serve. That's
major.
The one that gets the biggest reaction from people who are like, what is sitting volleyball? So you can block the serve. That's cool. That's weird. That is a rule difference, but it also is such a tactical difference as well, and definitely is part of the strategy, and a little bit different in the women's game and in the men's game as well, which is cool. Another rule difference would be that your butt is basically your feet. That's not a rule, but like you're in indoor, your feet can't cross the line when you're serving or when you're at the attack line when you're back row attacking, and in sitting volleyball, your butt cannot cross the line when you're serving or cross the attack line when you're back row attacking. Yeah. So
which I didn't mention with the court, there is an attack line that is 2 meters from the net on each side of the court, and in indoor that is at 3 meters. So everything is shrunk down from the indoor version of the game.
And if you don't know what a meter is, just Google it.
Sorry, Americans. I don't know, 10-foot line, like something like what is the sitting line, like the 8-footer? Like I have no idea.
Don't ask me. I only know what a yard is because of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, right. What is a yard? No.
3 feet. Like I don't know. And lifting. So do the sign. Do the lifting sign.
Over the mic.
For those that are just listening, it's basically like a giant alligator.
A big alligator.
That's the signal that the ref gives when you lift. That is when your butt, we're saying butt so much, but it's just the reality. When your butt comes off the ground while contacting the ball, or not contacting the ball, I guess. But the premise of sitting volleyball is that your butt, or if you're diving forwards, like your hip bone has to be touching the ground while contacting the ball. So you are allowed to lift in the backcourt on the first contact. So while digging a ball, or while defending a ball, or while serve receiving a ball, your butt can, what's the technical wording? Like
temporarily lose contact with the ground. So you can like come up and come down. You can't be like up on your knees or like
correct. Like get up and run and go sit back down. Like you can't do that. Recently I've been called on some lifts for spin serving, so that's been super weird and fun.
We're not sure about that one, but
we'll maybe add some of those clips.
Heidi's super dynamic. You guys can stare under her butt and see if there's any space, because that's essentially what they're looking for.
I think I missed both of those serves.
Really? Oh, so
I feel like I remember being like, it doesn't matter.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
But I should go back.
I remember being like, she can't freaking lift. She's tossing a ball at the back line, like standing up and getting mad. But like, who knows? We need to. Where's the video review?
And lifting in the front row. So while you're blocking or attacking, probably most common while you're blocking, but also while attacking. So if you're blocking and you do not contact the ball, you technically are allowed to lift. It is about when you contact the ball that can imply some different things. You could just like get up on your knees and pretend to block and not touch the ball. Like it implies some weird things. That's not really happen, but that technically is the rule. Your butt cannot come off the ground while you are attacking or blocking.
And that's a quick.
Yeah, it's definitely changing all the time, and no, I shouldn't say all the time, but it has recently changed, and it's definitely reffed differently.
The butt lift,
tournament to tournament, game to game. Yes. Zone to zone.
Yeah. And I mean, the referee needs to be able to watch hands going over the net, if there's any touches, and butt. So I'm not sure how that's like physically possible.
Like for those familiar with volleyball, like the down ref is watching. Yeah. Like the blockers and touching the net and the ball off their hands. So in sitting there also watching the lifts and how are they doing that?
It's hard. And there's no challenges in sitting volleyball. So it's not like as a coach, if you see it one way or the other, you can say, no, that didn't happen. Like,
and just a quick aside to that too, another rule difference is we can touch the full part of the net, just not the top tape. I did forget that. In indoor, you cannot at any time.
Exactly.
Touch the net or also go underneath the center line. So in sitting volleyball, you can touch any part of the net other than the top tape. It would be so hard if you could.
It used to be like us old school people. We could play volleyball like that. Like when I played, you could not just you couldn't touch the top, and you could touch. Yeah. So it was right. Really, and so now that's not the rule, but in sitting volleyball, that is the rule, because literally your limbs go under the net. Correct. Like it wouldn't work.
You are like smash sitting your like legs against your opponent's legs and knees on knees, and like doesn't matter if your foot or whatever body goes you have go across the center line. Yeah.
And I think that's something, if you haven't seen the sport, and we'll put in some video so you can see that in some stills, but like that you're so close to the net while sitting that naturally your limbs will go under. Even when you're attacking, like you're coming in pretty fast, and like my legs are long, so when I'm blocking Heidi, like very often she comes like close and will hit me in the knee with like her playing prosthetic, which we will get into. It's normal.
Okay, so the next thing being kind of what equipment do we use? So I am a left leg below the knee amputee. Here it is.
I can see that over your computer.
So I wear a cover on my residual limb. I do not wear my prosthetic leg when I play. You may not at all ever
wear your prosthetic
legs.
You may not.
You may not ever. The rule is you cannot.
If you are a lower limb amputee, you must take off your prosthetics to play.
And an upper body amputee, you can choose. You can wear a prosthetic if you're an arm amputee, and you don't have to. You get to pick. Volleyball's really hard without hands. So the advantage is definitely allowed there.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the athlete's preference
advantage,
if they want to wear a prosthetic or not. And we know athletes on different teams who do wear playing prosthetics, and then athletes who don't, and who like can set with only part of their arm. Like it's incredibly skilled. And then athletes that learn how to set a volleyball with a prosthetic. Like, it's incredible.
You're just yelling at us, take your legs off, practice is starting.
That was a joke in the last podcast. Hopefully people understood.
And I mean, I kind of said it already, but equipment differences. So bottom up, I wear indoor volleyball shoes when I play. One shoe. I wear one shoe when I play. And a cover on my residual limb. And I wear knee pads. I wear compression tights with shorts over top, kind of like
looser shorts, like you would wear in any
thigh shorts, and my jersey, sports bra, normal, and arm sleeves. Lots of people ask, why do we wear knee pads?
I was gonna say,
diving.
Do you wear knee pads?
Lots of responses on our team TikTok. Why are they even wearing knee pads? I'm like, my knees are like on the ground,
sliding against the ground
all the time, like smashing into my teammates across the net, smashing into the ground. So, and to get around, like historically, I've hopped a lot just around the court if you have to
move
get
or shake balls or
to shag, etc. And that's bad for your hip, bad for your quote unquote good leg that you have. So a lot of just crawling around on your knees is hard even with knee pads.
Yeah. We're like, I say it like I'm a player, but I'm down there on the ground coaching, but the athletes are on the ground continually moving, sliding. And so anything rubbing against the ground will get like a sore or a blister. And so literally covering as much skin as you can is best.
We used to not wear compression tights, and it was annoying to just wear like a knee pad
like
and
shorter,
like tight behind your knees, like some of your skin showing. And some teams just wear like loose track pants, so like just wear knee pads like underneath that or on top.
Yeah, exactly. Like
whatever you
different
want,
countries will wear what works for them or what's available to them, but for the most part, some teams wear shorts, but most skin is covered just because it's more comfortable that way.
Definitely.
All right, we've talked about sitting volleyball equipment. Who can play? Like, who can play our sport?
Yeah, great question. Everybody can play.
Everyone. I can play.
Yep. Technically, domestically, or within your own country, anybody can play. There are leagues that have able-bodied people. Don't love the word able-bodied, but that have non-para-athletes.
Non-disabled athletes playing.
Not disabled athletes playing. To compete internationally, though, you do have to have a classifiable disability. So
exactly,
classification is a thing.
It is, and it's a complex term.
Yeah.
I don't know, like complex process, and it can be intimidating for people going through that. Essentially, there are World Paravolley medical staff who are trained to be classifiers, and they determine whether or not you can play our sport. I'm sure it's very difficult for them, but it's also difficult for the athletes. And there's different classes in sitting volleyball, which makes it a little bit harder. Obviously, Heidi, being an amputee, it's a little bit cut and dry. Like, yeah, you can play. This is your classification. But when there's more impairments and different types of muscle loss or range of motion, then it gets a little bit more difficult. And the classifiers take a lot more time to determine whether people can play or not.
And I've kind of been recently describing it like this, like classification is the main difference between the Olympics and the Paralympics. And it's kind of an interesting way to think about it. It is the difference. There's no classification in the Olympics, and it's kind of definitely a separating factor, and each sport has their own classification system as well, which is so confusing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not like, oh, we all classify to play parasport.
No.
In one way. Each sport has its own set of essentially rules, and sitting volleyball like maybe is more simple, but then doesn't allow, I think, as diverse amount of athletes to play.
Absolutely. It's currently under review, and we'll see even up to 2026 or into 2026. I think it's changing.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like for example, track and swimming, like there's I think like 13 classes. So like in the Olympics you have one 100-meter race, but in the Paralympics you have 13 100-meter races. To just compare it simply like that. And like in wheelchair basketball, I really don't know anything about their classification, but I know it's a point system.
Yeah, exactly.
And so for sitting volleyball, there are two classes, SV1 and SV2, or VS1 and VS2, which basically just stands for seated volleyball or volleyball seated, the way it just translates in different languages. A VS1 would be more of like a permanent disability. I am a VS1. My condition is not changing. It is permanent. It has a higher impact on my ability to
play
compete,
the sport.
Ability to play the sport. And yeah, so a VS2 would be a lesser level of that. On your roster, you're only allowed to have two VS2s, and only one can be on the court at a time. Some examples of that would be like a severe knee injury that's affected like your strength and your range of motion, ankle fusion,
severe like muscle loss, range of motion in multiple joints, and
I'm just going through all that.
Normally that's backed by like scans and MRIs and like doctors, like nerve damage. Yeah.
And that process is not cut and dry. So you can be under review. Is that the technical term?
Called like R status under review.
Yeah, you get classified in the like 2 days before a tournament. So super stressful, both physically and mentally. So you go into this meeting with the classifiers and you get classified, and they're basically doctors, physiotherapists, etc. And they're assessing your ability and your amount of disability. That's an intense process, and sometimes you make it through, sometimes you don't, and sometimes you're under review, and that can just be every time at a tournament you're getting classified. Sometimes you're set for 18 months, you don't have to get reclassified or something. Sometimes it's a certain amount of tournaments.
I don't know the rules. It's far above my pay grade. And I know like World Paravolley classifiers work really hard to make it fair for everyone, but it's controversial.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's something that continually, I don't want to say like changes, but it is being evaluated is maybe the right word, but it's also continually being pushed back on.
Like the ethics of it is like, you're assessing ability or like assessing disability. Like, it's
are you disabled enough to play this sport? Like,
what is like the end goal, to make it the most competitive or to make it the most inclusive, or to like, there's so many different things that go into it. We can get into that.
to make it fair for all, to make, because then the rules, there's like some new rules in sitting volleyball that I don't think do that. But then what about classification? I don't know. And that's like, obviously you need to have an impairment or a disability that makes you classifiable, because I've had 2 knee surgeries. I've had multiple knee injuries. I cannot play indoor volleyball anymore, but I'm definitely not classifiable. And I know that. And an ACL injury with loss of cartilage and range of motion, that's not enough. It needs to be like more severe. And that's something that has changed over time, because ACLs were classifiable in the past, are no longer.
And like changes to like lower body conditions, upper body conditions, like using your hands in sitting volleyball is really important. And like the old rules for like a VS2 were like, I literally think the rule was you had to be missing 7 fingers. Who made that up? It's such a weird number.
Yeah, I think it came from the standing version, which existed before sitting.
Right.
Because it wasn't as much of a disadvantage. It was, but not as much as when you're sitting on your butt. And I'm not sure.
So like, for example, athletes who are missing their whole hand on one side but still have their wrist bone, so you like technically can still move your wrist and you have your hand, but you're missing your whole hand. So that's really hard to play sitting volleyball without a hand.
Exactly.
To be classified as lesser impaired than somebody missing a limb or a lower limb.
Yeah, and it's great that World Paravolley looks at that there's people, there's medical professionals, and they evaluate and change it over time, because that was a change after the Rio Games.
And to just a quick like higher level even aside, they have to also like abide by the IPC like classification code. So there's like high level like classification code they can't just like World Paravolley is not just like making up the rules. They have to abide by certain codes, which is interesting.
Yeah, it makes our sport and Paralympic sport unique. And although it's difficult, it's essential. Okay, Heidi. Our sport
what's the question?
Is a bit different, and not a lot of people know about it. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're talking about what is sitting volleyball.
Period.
But when you tell people you're a sitting volleyball athlete, you're a Paralympian, what kind of responses do you get? Like, I know when I tell people, they're not normally like, oh yeah, I've seen that before, let me tell you about it. They are so confused.
I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They're coming from like an indoor volleyball lens, so they're immediately, that's what they're visualizing in their mind. And then you say, oh yeah, I play sitting volleyball. They're like, sitting on what? Like on the ground. They're like, oh, don't you play in a wheelchair? I'm like, why are you telling me that? You don't even know the sport. Like, you just assume that I play the sport in a wheelchair. Nothing against wheelchair sports, but that's not
Paralympic sport equals
wheelchair sports. There's no alternative there. And if they're thinking about an indoor volleyball court, they're asking all the time, how do you even get the ball over the net?
That must be so, like, that can't be fun. It's so high. I'm like,
they're like, there's no hitting. Like, the net is, how do you even jump?
They're thinking of like balloon volleyball when you played like as a kid. They're like, oh yeah, it's just so easy.
Yeah, they're like free balls. How do you hit?
Slow.
Literally, how do you jump? I'm like, I don't jump. The net is lower. Oh.
Yeah. But then I can't imagine what they're picturing in their brain. Like a badminton net?
And then they still are like, are you sitting on something that helps you move? Like, are you sitting on a little scooter? Are you sitting on something with wheels? I wish.
No, my butt. My butt on the ground.
Sitting on my butt.
I'm sitting.
They're like, and then they just think you can't move.
Totally.
They're like, that's not very fun. That's
so like
very,
you get
like,
no
dynamic
approach. You don't. Yeah, exactly. Like you just start like a pylon.
Yeah. When you start, you are a pylon. But
oh my gosh.
So that's hilarious and a consistent domino effect of responses.
Yeah.
I should start asking people like, how do you think I jump?
Exactly. I mean, it's possible because of the whole lift thing. You can lean up on your knees, but like we're not jumping. We're getting air, getting above the ball. I mean,
defy gravity.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to get into
Next.
that one.
Okay. So now that everybody kind of knows what sitting volleyball is, we wanted to talk about this. You've maybe a better intro of this than me.
You've gotten a brief intro to what sitting volleyball is. Hopefully it was clear to you. And if it wasn't, DM us, hit us
Google
up,
it.
ask questions. Google, that works too. Google it, but like don't Google too hard, because if you Google it, you might find what we're about to read. So
That's funny. I didn't even segue that in my mind.
when you're trying to find what sitting volleyball is, you'll probably get Wikipedia, and then like maybe you're gonna get the Paris 2024 website, which Heidi was like looking one day. I don't know if it was for the podcast or not, but like she came across the definition or the explanation on the website of what sitting volleyball is, and honestly, if you heard this and you didn't know what sitting volleyball was, I don't think this would help. I mean, it would help. There was a few things that were right, but like everybody close their eyes and just like picture what Heidi is about to explain.
So I'm on the official Paris 2024 website. Sitting volleyball. This is the first paragraph. Okay. Quote. Sitting volleyball is a variation of the standing version of the sport. It is played by two teams of 6 players who slide around the court using the power of their arms to remain in the sitting position. The court dimensions in sitting volleyball are smaller and the net is lower than in Olympic volleyball, making sitting volleyball a fast-paced, intense sport. End quote.
What?
What sport is that?
So the standing version is how we start. Okay. So it's a variation. Correct. But like of standing, but then you're pushing with your arms, and then the court is smaller and the net is lower. But
two teams of 6 players, correct. Slide around, correct. Using the power of their arms. If I only played this sport with the power of my arms, no.
You're in trouble.
I'm not.
You can play with only the power of your arms.
And you can, and it's absolutely possible, but why would I not use my leg if I had it and it's strong and I do have it? And
one of the first things I learned is like use your long limbs, sit in a position that you can like move in all directions. I'm not like completely knocking who wrote this, because maybe it's a translation from French.
Funny. Like
it's hilarious, and it's just like this is how we explain parasport on the website for the Paralympics.
Not good enough.
It like hit us up if you need a quick definition. I'm sure World Paravolley has one on the website that's much better.
I don't think they got it from there, because I've read World Paravolley front to back, so.
Right?
Yeah,
it's like no.
Just a little knock at like the net is lower, correct, than in Olympic volleyball. Like why versus like Olympic volleyball classic? You're the Paralympic website. Okay, maybe that's why you're working for the Paralympics. That's why you wrote this.
But like you could say the net heights. You could include these types of things. Maybe it's later down, but I don't know. I just think it does not give you a visual. Where's the pictures?
Standing version at the top. So like, and then you said Olympic volleyball at the bottom.
Yeah.
Neither of those are correct. Indoor volleyball is the sport.
Mm-hmm. It is. And I mean,
it is fast paced and intense. That's accurate.
It's very accurate. It is fast paced.
There's a little history and
awesome.
Like rules below that,
a little bit about
and stuff.
Classification.
Like, if that first paragraph is just your like little preview, little taste,
it's not going to work. No. But the good thing is you can go to this website, you can find where they're selling tickets.
Yep.
You can come to the matches.
Yep.
And then you can see. And then you can write your own definition.
Catch you all in Paris.
See you there. Just a little tidbit that, of course, we wanted to add.
Yeah, you gotta have a little spice in the pod.
We're obviously trying to educate, and we're a little bit critical, but like that's what sport's about, especially at the top. Yeah. And I mean, you can be critical of us and of what we're saying as well, and we'll take that feedback. But we just want things to be better, and we want things to be progressing and moving forward. But we also want to bring a little bit of light to like. You can laugh about it and you can be like, what is that?
I laughed when I read it this time. I wasn't initially mad. I was initially like, what?
It's kind of like what people think our sport might be. But yeah, that's a little bit about us, a little bit about sitting volleyball. It was a little bit more technical, and we had to refer to our notes more than maybe we would like.
It's important.
But it's just because...
Didn't want to miss a rule.
Yeah, and like we could go so far off on a topic and talk about sitting volleyball forever and like so detailed, and the tactics and the technical differences, which we're so happy to have a conversation around, and let us know if you want to hear that. But that's just like a basic introduction to what is sitting volleyball. Honestly, sit down. The net is lower. Yep. The court is smaller. Use all the limbs you have to move.
Please.
Do an
Give a
approach when you attack.
Yeah.
Keep the ball in front of you, and good
Yep.
things will happen.
Go to your local neighborhood pickleball court, rent it. The net's a little lower than sitting. The court's basically the same. Just give it a try.
Yeah.
And I say that because you can't regularly access a sitting volleyball net. So
To find the equipment to play sitting volleyball is very difficult. Heidi talked about what she wears when she plays sitting volleyball, but an actual sitting volleyball net is literally a cut down net from the indoor version of volleyball. So it was a high net cut down. Ours doesn't actually go exactly to the height we need. Our ball carts we cut the legs off as well,
make it up as we
which
go.
is a bit ridiculous, but we don't think it's okay to have to reach up into a ball cart or like get up when the athletes can't even physically do that. Our setting hoop is lowered down, so it's at a different height. We adapt and we change pretty much everything for our sport. I think there's like for the Paralympics a specific ball, but I'm like very curious to see if the equipment will be adapted. My guess is no. It will be indoor ball carts. Things will be hard to access, all of that. We know people are trying, but it continues to be an issue when we show up, and it needs to change. Like make things accessible. That's the amazing thing about sitting volleyball. You can sit down with nothing. Of course, maybe you need some shoes and to cover your skin, but like you don't need equipment.
Everybody, we meant it. Like you can
play. You can try it, and that's exciting. But then there's parts of the sport that aren't accessible, and that's like not okay.
Yep.
Cue standing for a whole anthem, and then walking, and then taking off your legs, and then putting your legs back on, and then oh my goodness, that's
Popping in a
another
circle
episode.
and another circle. Just
Make the sport for the athletes. Make the sport accessible. Everyone will have a lot more fun.
Period.
The end.
Mic drop. Look at these booms just in place the whole time. I'm just loving
They're
the
great.
setup.
Everything's working for us.
Okay.
Minus the fact that we're having some technical difficulties.
It's dark.
No cameras are working. We don't know what's happening. We've had to like record, re-record.
Live and learn.
This could be an audio only podcast moving forward because we're having problems with the camera equipment. But we did it. We got through, and we hope you enjoyed it. And we really appreciate all the support and the feedback people have been giving us, and the comments. And Parasport is a small community. Sitting volleyball is an even smaller community, and we love it and we appreciate it.
Yeah, truly. Thank you for listening to our passion project, taking a seat with us today. We hope you learned something. I honestly think I learned something, so I know somebody else listening did. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Take a Seat Cast. Follow me, Nicole Banny, at Nicole Ban _ and Heidi at Heidi Peters. And be sure to check the episode notes for information and links to what we talked about today.
Boom.
Boom.
Did it. Cheers.
Oh my goodness.
Holy shit, 3 hours later.
What is wrong with my phone?